He thought he was betting on Black 17, but he was actually betting his entire marriage on a lie I just uncovered. I watched my husband Jason drop a stack of $100 bills onto the green felt of the roulette table. He wasn't crying. He wasn't holding his mother's hand as she withered away from stage 4 lymphoma. He was laughing, holding a whiskey sour in one hand and a lit cigar in the other, screaming, "Black 17! Daddy needs a new car!" 5 hours ago, he had stood in our kitchen with tears streaming down his face, begging me for $5,000. He told me the insurance company had denied his mother's latest round of chemo. He said she was in pain. He said if we didn't pay the hospital by noon, they would stop the treatment. I drained my savings account. I transferred the money. I hugged him and told him to drive safe. I thought I was funding a life-saving medical procedure. Turns out, I was funding a gambling addiction and a midlife crisis at the Lucky Eagle Casino. My name is Chloe Vance. I'm 25 years old, and I have a habit of noticing details. It's my job. I'm a forensic auditor for a mid-sized accounting firm. I find money that people try to hide, but for the last 6 months, the only thing I couldn't find was the truth about my own marriage. Jason and I have been married for 2 years. He's 28, works in sales, or at least he used to. He's charming, the kind of guy who can talk his way out of a speeding ticket. But lately, the charm had been replaced by panic. It started in January. His mother, Linda, got sick. Now, Linda lives 3 hours away in a retirement community. I love Linda. She's sweet, sends me cards on my birthday, and makes terrible lasagna. When Jason told me she had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, I was devastated. I wanted to visit, but Jason insisted she didn't want anyone to see her like that. He said she was proud. He said she wanted to fight it privately. So, I respected her wishes. I stayed away. And I paid. First, it was the co-pays, $500 here, $200 there. Then it was the specialist consultations, $1,500. Then the experimental medication not covered by Blue Cross, $3,000. In 6 months, we had drained our joint savings, maxed out 2 credit cards, and I had dipped into the inheritance my grandfather left me. All for Linda. Because what kind of wife refuses to help her dying mother-in-law? But forensic auditors have a saying, the math always tells on you. Smooth, engaging voice for book narration. They're going to discharge her, Chloe, he sobbed, pacing around our small kitchen. The billing department is heartless. They need $5,000 cash or a wire transfer immediately to start the next cycle. If she misses this cycle, the doctor says she won't make it to Christmas. He looked so broken. His eyes were red, his hands were shaking. I thought it was grief. I realize now it was withdrawal. I transferred the money. $5,000. It was the last of my emergency fund. "I'm gonna drive down there right now to pay it in person," he said, kissing my forehead. "You're an angel, Chloe. You're saving her life." He grabbed his keys and left. I sat there with my coffee, feeling a knot in my stomach, not because of the money, but because of a notification that popped up on my iPad 10 minutes later. See, Jason and I share a phone plan, and Jason, for all his sales skills, is technically illiterate. He had synced his photos to the cloud, and the iPad in the living room was logged in. A photo appeared in the stream. It wasn't a picture of a hospital bill. It wasn't a selfie with his mom. It was a picture of a car dashboard with the caption, "Feeling lucky today. Let's double up." The GPS tag on the photo wasn't St. Mary's Hospital. It was Route 9, heading west. The hospital is east. I opened the Find My app. I don't usually track him. I'm not that kind of wife. But today, I needed to know. The blue dot representing Jason's iPhone wasn't moving toward his mother's town. It was stationary. It was parked 20 miles away at the Lucky Eagle Casino and Resort. The knot in my stomach turned into a cold, hard stone. I didn't call him. I didn't text him asking where he was. I put on my shoes, grabbed my keys, and got into my car. I drove the 20 miles in silence. No radio, just the sound of my tires on the pavement and the realization that my entire life was a lie. I parked 3 rows behind his truck. I walked through the revolving doors, the smell of stale cigarette smoke and desperation hitting me instantly. The casino was loud, slot machines ringing, people shouting, the low hum of bad decisions being made by thousands of people. It took me 10 minutes to find him. And there he was, at the roulette table. He was wearing his lucky jacket, he had a drink in his hand, he was high-fiving the stranger next to him. Black 17, he yelled again as the ball rattled around the wheel. Come on, baby! Mama needs a new pair of shoes! Mama. He was using his dying mother as a catchphrase for his gambling addiction. I stood about 20 feet away, hidden behind a bank of Wheel of Fortune slot machines. I watched him. I watched him place a stack of chips on the table. Black chips. $100 chips. There must have been at least $2,000 on that table. That was my money. That was the money for our future house. That was the money I worked 60-hour weeks for. And he was betting it on a spinning ball while his mother was probably sitting at home knitting, completely healthy, wondering why her son never called. I pulled out my phone. I didn't confront him yet. Confrontation without evidence is just a fight. Confrontation with evidence is a conviction. I started recording. I zoomed in on his face. I zoomed in on the chips. I zoomed in on the drink. I caught him flirting with the cocktail waitress, tipping her with my money. Another round, the waitress asked. Keep them coming, sweetheart, Jason grinned. My wife thinks I'm at a funeral. I've got all day. At a funeral. He was already burying his mother just to cover his tracks. I lowered the phone. My hand was shaking, but not from fear, from rage. Pure, unadulterated rage. I could have walked up there and screamed. I could have flipped the table. I could have thrown a drink in his face, but that would have been too easy. That would have been messy. And Jason would have found a way to spin it. He would have said he was blowing off steam, that the stress was too much, that he just stopped for one drink. No. I needed to destroy him. I needed to make sure that when he walked out of this casino, he didn't just lose his money. I wanted him to lose his wife, his home, his reputation, and his freedom. Before I tell you exactly how I walked up to that table and dropped a bomb that silenced the entire casino floor, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button. It really supports the channel. And tell me in the comments, have you ever caught someone in a lie this big? I stopped recording. I put my phone back in my pocket. I took a deep breath, smoothed my hair, and walked out from behind the slot machines. I walked straight up to the roulette table. The dealer was spinning the ball. Jason's eyes were glued to the wheel, chanting, "Black! Black! Black!" I stepped right up beside him. I leaned in close, so my lips were almost touching his ear. "Hey, Jason," I whispered, my voice sweet as poison. "Did the doctor say if Red 27 covers chemotherapy?" I thought I was walking away from a broken marriage, but he had already signed my name on a contract that could cost me my home. Jason froze. His hand, which had been reaching for his whiskey sour, stopped in midair. The color drained from his face so fast it looked like his blood had decided to evacuate the premises. He turned his head slowly, like a rusted machine, until his eyes met mine. For a second, he looked at me like I was a hallucination. Then the panic hit. "Chloe," he squeaked. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat and tried to put on his salesman's smile, but it looked more like a grimace of pain. "Babe, what are you doing here? I thought you were at work." "And I thought you were at St. Mary's Hospital paying for your mother's chemotherapy," I said, my voice loud enough to carry over the sound of the slot machines. The dealer, a bored-looking guy named Steve, paused. The cocktail waitress stopped chewing her gum. The guy next to Jason, who had been high-fiving him a minute ago, took a step back. "I am," Jason stammered, standing up and trying to block my view of the chips. I was. I stopped here for a second to use the bathroom. And I thought, hey, maybe I can turn that $5,000 into $10,000. For Mom! I'm doing this for her, Chloe! The treatments are so expensive, I just wanted to give us a cushion. You wanted to give us a cushion, I repeated, looking at the stack of chips. By betting on Black 17 is a strategy, he insisted, sweat beading on his forehead. I had a feeling. A premonition. Look, I'm actually up a few hundred. This is good. We can upgrade her room. He was gaslighting me in real time. He was standing in a casino, smelling like whiskey and cheap cigars, telling me that gambling my savings was a noble act of charity. "So," I said, crossing my arms, "you haven't been to the hospital yet?" "No, I was on my way." "And your mom is there right now, waiting for the payment?" "Yes. She's frantic, Chloe. She's in pain. That's why I'm so stressed. That's why I needed a drink. He tried to look like the grieving son, wiping a fake tear from his eye. You don't know what it's like, watching your mother die. You're right, I said. I don't. Let's call her. Jason froze again. What? Let's call Linda, I said, pulling out my phone. If she's sitting in a hospital bed waiting for payment, she must be terrified. Let's tell her the money is on the way, or rather that it's currently riding on a roulette wheel. No, Jason lunged for my phone, but I took a step back. Don't call her. She's resting. She can't talk. The doctors took her phone. Really, I tapped the screen because she just posted a picture of her garden on Facebook 10 minutes ago. I held up the phone. There was Linda. Not in a hospital gown, not hooked up to an IV. She was wearing a sun hat, holding a basket of tomatoes, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "Finally got the prize winners picked. Lovely day for a salad." The silence at the roulette table was deafening. Even the slot machines seemed to quiet down. Lied. That's an old photo. Jason lied, desperate now. She's delirious. She doesn't know what she's doing. Let's ask her, I said. I hit dial. I put it on speaker. I held the phone up high so everyone, the dealer, the waitress, the random gamblers, could hear. It rang twice. Hello, Linda's voice came through clear and cheerful. Chloe? Hi, sweetheart. How are you? Hi, Linda, I said, keeping my eyes locked on Jason. He looked like he wanted to vomit. I'm good. I was just checking in. Jason told me you were at the hospital today for your chemo. Smoothie hospital, Linda laughed. Oh, honey, you know I haven't been to a hospital since I got my hip done 3 years ago. I'm fit as a fiddle. I'm just out in the garden. Did Jason tell you that? That boy, he always gets mixed up. Yeah, I said, my voice trembling slightly with rage. He gets mixed up a lot. He actually told me you had stage 4 lymphoma and needed $5,000 for emergency treatment. Silence on the other end. Then, a gasp.
He said what?
Linda's voice dropped. Chloe, tell me you didn't give him money. I did, I said. All of it. Oh, Lord, Linda sighed, sounding tired and old. Chloe, listen to me. Jason doesn't have a sick mother. He has a gambling problem. We cut him off 2 years ago. That's why he doesn't bring you to visit. He owes his father $10,000. Jason closed his eyes. The game was up. The lie wasn't just exposed, it was incinerated. Thank you, Linda, I said. I'll call you later. May I come up? I looked at the crowd. The cocktail waitress looked disgusted. The dealer was shaking his head. The guy next to Jason picked up his own chips and moved to a different table, muttering, That's messed up, man. Using your mom? Jason stood there, stripped of his lies. He didn't look charming anymore. He looked pathetic. Chloe, he whispered. I can explain. It's a sickness. I was going to pay you back, I swear. I just needed one big win to fix everything. To pay off the credit cards. The cards, I asked? The ones you maxed out for medical bills? I was in a hole, he shouted, suddenly angry. I was trying to dig us out. You think I like living like this? You think I like begging my wife for money? I'm the man. I'm supposed to provide. So you stole from me? I asked. To feel like a man. I didn't steal it. He pointed at the chips on the table. It's right there. I can win it back. Just let me play this hand. I feel it, Chloe. Black is coming. If I win this, I can pay you back the $5,000 and we walk away even. He turned to the dealer. Spin it. Let it ride on black. The dealer looked at me. He hesitated. Don't you dare, I said to the dealer. It's my money, Jason yelled. I placed the bet! Spin the wheel! The dealer looked at the pit boss who had walked over to see what the commotion was. The pit boss nodded. The dealer spun the ball. Jason gripped the edge of the table. Come on, he chanted, sweat dripping down his nose. Come on, baby, save me. Black 17. I watched the ball bounce. Click, click, click. It slowed down. It rattled over the numbers. Jason held his breath. I held mine. If he won, he would feel vindicated. He would think he was right. He would think the risk was worth it. The ball dropped. Red 32. Jason stared at the wheel. He stared at the little white ball sitting in the red slot. He stared at the pile of black chips, my emergency fund, my hard work, my trust, getting swept away by the dealer's rake.
Gone. In seconds.
Jason made a sound like a wounded animal. He slumped against the table, burying his face in his hands. "I lost it," he whispered. "I lost it all." "No, Jason," I said, pulling out my phone again. "You didn't just lose the money." I opened my banking app. I opened the credit card app. "You lost the car," I said, tapping the screen to report the card as stolen. "You lost the apartment." I opened the Uber app and canceled the ride I knew he would try to order later. "And," I said, taking a step closer to him so he could see the ring on my finger, the modest diamond he had bought me, probably with winnings from a previous gambling binge. I pulled the ring off. It felt heavy in my hand. "You lost me." I dropped the ring into his whiskey sour glass. It made a small plink sound as it sank to the bottom of the melting ice and cheap alcohol. "Chloe?" "Wait." Jason grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "You can't leave me here. I drove the truck, but I'm out of gas. I don't have any cash. How am I supposed to get home?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. The man I had shared a bed with. The man I had planned a future with. "Call your mom," I said. "Oh wait, you can't. You killed her." I walked away, but as I headed toward the exit, my heart pounding in my chest, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It wasn't Jason. It was the pit boss. A large man in a dark suit with an earpiece. "Ma'am," he said, his voice low and serious, "we need to speak with you." "I'm leaving," I said. "My husband is your problem now." "It's not about your husband," the pit boss said. "It's about the credit card he used to buy in earlier. The one in your name. I just reported it stolen," I said. "We know," he said. "But before he used that card, he signed a marker. A line of credit from the casino for $50,000. My stomach dropped. My stomach dropped. "Welcome to the Either Names' relegation." And I asked. And the pit boss looked at Jason, who was now chugging the whiskey with my ring in it. "He listed you as the co-signer, and he put your house up as collateral. I sent my husband to prison, but I was driving to his best friend's office to send him to the poorhouse." Mark Sullivan's real estate office looked exactly like Mark. Flashy on the outside, hollow on the inside. It was located in a strip mall next to a vape shop, but he had parked his leased Mercedes right out front to project success. I walked in. The bell on the door chimed, a cheerful little ding that felt incredibly sarcastic, given that I was there to destroy his career. Mark was on the phone, leaning back in his leather chair, laughing. When he saw me, he smiled. It was that frat boy smile that hadn't changed since college. "Chloe," he boomed, hanging up the phone without saying goodbye. "To what do I owe the pleasure? Jason isn't with you? Did he finally win big?" He thought this was a social call. He thought I was the clueless wife coming to share good news. I didn't smile back. I walked straight to his desk and sat down. I didn't say hello. I just reached into my bag and pulled out the credit report and the photocopy of the second mortgage document Rossi had given me. I slid them across the glass desk. "Jason is in jail, Mark," I said. Mark's smile faltered. "What? Jail? Like drunk tank jail?" "Like felony fraud jail," I corrected. "Identity theft, grand larceny, and mortgage fraud." Mark laughed nervously. "Whoa, Chloe, that sounds serious. But why are you telling me? Do you need bail money?" "I don't need bail money," I said, leaning forward. "I need to know why your notary stamp is on a document authorizing a $20,000 loan against my house. A document that has my signature on it. A signature I didn't write." Mark went pale. He looked at the paper. He looked at the stamp. Mark Sullivan, licensed notary public. He swallowed hard. "Chloe, look. Jason came to me. He said you guys were in a bind. He said you were sick, or his mom was sick. I don't remember. He said you signed it at home because you were too weak to come in. I was just doing a solid for a bro." "A solid for a bro?" I repeated. "Mark, do you know what the primary rule of being a notary is?" "It's that the signatory must be present," I said. "You stamped a document confirming that I, Chloe Vance, stood in front of you and signed this. I wasn't here. That means you didn't just break a rule. You committed a crime. A federal crime." "It's a technicality," Mark argued, his voice rising in pitch. It's just paperwork. It's not just paperwork, I said. It's forensic evidence. I pulled out a pen. I grabbed a notepad from his desk. Let me show you something about how handwriting works, I said. See, when a person signs their own name, it's muscle memory. It's fluid. There are pen lifts where the ink trails off naturally, but when someone traces a signature, like Jason did and like you verified, the ink pools in the curves, it's hesitant. It's called a forger's tremor. And on this document, your stamp is right next to a textbook forger's tremor. Mark stared at the diagram I had drawn. He was sweating now. I could smell it, cheap cologne and fear. I can lose my license, he whispered. You're going to lose a lot more than your license, I said. I'm heading to the police station next. I'm going to add your name to the report. You'll be charged as an accomplice. Mortgage fraud carries a sentence of up to 30 years, Mark. You wouldn't last 30 minutes. He slumped back in his chair. Chloe, please. Don't. I have a kid. I have a mortgage. Jason swore he would pay it back next week. Jason is broke, I said, and now so am I. He stole $50,000 from me today, and thanks to you, there's another $20,000 in liens on my house. I can't pay that, Mark stammered. I don't have 20 grand cash. No, I said, but you have errors and omissions insurance. Mark blinked. What? You're a real estate agent and a notary, I said. You carry professional liability insurance. Errors and omissions. It covers damages caused by your negligence or mistakes. Like, say, notarizing a forged document without the signatory present. If I file a claim for fraud, Mark said, his voice trembling, my premiums will skyrocket. They might drop me. And if I go to the cops, I countered, you go to prison. So, here is the deal. I pulled a pre-typed letter out of my bag. I had written it in the car on my phone and printed it at the FedEx Kinko's next door. This is a confession, I said. It says that you negligently notarized the document without verifying my identity. It admits fault. You are going to sign this. Then you are going to call your insurance provider right now, on speakerphone, and file a claim to pay off the lien on my house immediately. Mark looked at the letter. He looked at me. He saw the fire in my eyes. He realized that the sweet girl who used to bake cookies for their frat parties was gone. And if I don't, he asked weaky. Then I walk out that door, I said. And the next time you see me, I'll be testifying against you at your sentencing hearing. Mark picked up the pen. His hand was shaking. A real tremor this time. He signed the confession. Good, I said. Now dial. I sat there for 45 minutes while Mark cried on the phone to his insurance agent. I listened as he admitted his mistake. I listened as they opened a claim. I got the claim number. I got the assurance that the lien would be paid off within 10 business days. 1 debt down, 2 to go. I walked out of Mark's office feeling lighter. I had just clawed back $20,000 of my life. But as I got into my car, the adrenaline faded and the cold reality of the credit report came back. The title loan on the truck, that was $5,000. I could sell the truck to cover that. But the last one, the Quick Cash LLC loan for $15,000. I looked at the address listed on the report. It wasn't a bank. It wasn't a payday lender strip mall. It was an address in the industrial district, down by the docks. Jason had said he borrowed from loan sharks. He said they threatened to break his legs. If Jason was in jail, he couldn't pay them. And if the loan was in my name, which according to the credit report it was, they weren't going to come looking for Jason. They were going to come looking for me. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at the screen, my heart hammered against my ribs. I knew I shouldn't answer it, but I'm an auditor. I need to know the extent of the damage. I swiped right. Hello, Mrs. Vance, a voice rasped. It sounded like gravel in a blender. We heard your husband had a little run-in with the law today. That's unfortunate. Who is this? I asked, gripping the steering wheel. We're the investors in your husband's ventures, the voice said. Since he's indisposed, we assume you'll be handling the weekly installment? It's due at 5 this p.m. today. I checked the clock on the dashboard. It was 4:15 p.m. I don't have the money, I said. And that loan was fraudulent. Jason forged my signature and the mine left. It was a cold, dry sound. We don't do paperwork, Mrs. Vance. We do collections. You have 45 minutes to bring $3,000 to the warehouse on 4th Street, or we come to 42 Elm Street, and we don't knock. I stared at the phone. I had fixed the bank fraud. I had fixed the mortgage fraud. But you can't audit a loan shark. You can't threaten them with the police. I had 45 minutes. I didn't have $3,000. But I did have Jason's truck key in my pocket. And I remembered something Jason had told me about that truck. Something about a hidden compartment he used to hide his cash when he won big. He said he never used it anymore. But Jason lied about everything. If you want to see if I can find the cash before the sharks show up at my door, hit that subscribe button right now. You do not want to miss what I find in that truck. I threw the car into reverse. I wasn't going to the warehouse. I was going to the impound lot where the police had towed Jason's truck. I had one shot to find a miracle. I thought I was fighting a lone wolf, but I just realized I was up against a family business. The back office of a casino is the most depressing place on earth. It doesn't have the flashing lights or the free drinks. It just has gray carpet, flickering fluorescent lights, and the smell of ozone and fear. I sat in a metal chair across from the pit boss, whose name turned out to be Mr. Rossi, and a security guard who looked like he bent steel bars for fun. Jason was sitting in the corner, slumped over like a bag of wet laundry, holding an ice pack to his head where he'd banged it against the doorframe while being dragged in. "This is the marker," Mr. Rossi said, sliding a document across the desk. $50,000. Signed 3 hours ago, collateral listed 42 Elm Street. Co-signer, Chloe Vance. I looked at the paper. My heart was hammering, but my hands were steady. This was my turf now. I deal with fraud every day. I know what fake documents look like. I studied the signature at the bottom. It looked like mine. It had the same loop on the C and the same sharp finish on the E. To an untrained eye, it was perfect. Elfram in the lace. But I wasn't an untrained eye. "This is a trace," I said, looking up at Rossi. "Excuse me?" Looking for a smooth, engaging voice for book narration, television, and social media? You've probably heard my voice before, so let's get you millions of views. This itch jig. You probably heard my voice before, so let's get you millions of views. I turned to Jason. "Is that why you asked for my driver's license last week? You said you needed to scan it for the insurance company for your mom." Jason didn't look up. He just whimpered. "Mr. Rossi," I said, my voice cold. "I did not sign this. I was at work 3 hours ago. You can check the GPS on my phone. You can check the security cameras at my office. This is a forgery. And under state law, a casino cannot enforce a debt based on fraudulent documentation." Rossi looked at the paper, then at Jason. "Mr. Vance, is that true? Did your wife sign this?" Jason looked up. His eyes were bloodshot and desperate. This was his moment to come clean, to save me the legal headache, to be a decent human being for 1 second. "She signed it," Jason lied. I stared at him. I actually felt my jaw drop. "She forgot," Jason continued, speaking fast, spit flying from his lips. "She's been under a lot of stress. With my mom being sick, she gets confused. She signed it in the car before I came in. She wanted me to win the money for the treatments." He was doubling down. He was literally trying to gaslight the casino security into taking my house. "He's lying," I said to Rossi. "His mother isn't sick. I just proved that on the casino floor. And I didn't sign this." Rossi rubbed his temples. "Ma'am, we have a signed document. We have a copy of your ID. Unless you file a police report for identity theft and fraud against your husband, we have to proceed as if this is valid. We will place a lien on your property within 24 hours. He was giving me an ultimatum. Protect my husband or save my house. It wasn't even a choice. "Call the police," I said. Jason's head snapped up. "Chloe! No! You can't! That's a felony! I'll go to jail!" "You should have thought about that before you traced my signature to fund your roulette habit," I said. "Mr. Rossi, I am formally accusing Jason Vance of identity theft, forgery, and grand larceny. Call the cops." Rossi nodded to the security guard. "Do it." "No. No, please." Jason scrambled out of the chair, falling to his knees again. "Chloe, don't do this. I can fix it. I have a plan. I just need time." "What plan, Jason?" I shouted, finally losing my cool. What plan involves losing $50,000 you don't have? What plan involves stealing my house? I didn't steal it, he cried. I borrowed against it. I was going to pay it back. I had a lead on a sure thing next week, the Seahawks game. I have a guy. You have a guy? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. You have a gambling addiction, Jason. And you just gambled away your marriage. While we waited for the police, Rossi typed something into his computer. He frowned. Mrs. Vance, he said, you might want to check your credit report.
Why?
Because when we ran the credit check for this marker, Rossi turned the monitor so I could see. It showed 3 other active liens on the property at 42 Elm Street. I froze. What? A second mortgage for $20,000 taken out 3 months ago, Rossi read. A title loan on a 2018 Ford truck, and a personal loan from a company called Quick Cash LLC for $15,000. I felt the room spin. The house was inherited from my grandfather. It was paid off. It was the only thing I owned that was truly mine. Jason, I whispered. What did you do? Jason was crying into his hands. I needed the money, he sobbed, for the interest payments. Interest on what? On the loan sharks, he whispered. The air left the room. Loan sharks, I asked. You borrowed from loan sharks? I lost big on the Super Bowl, Jason confessed, his voice muffled. They were going to break my legs, Chloe. I had to pay them. So I took out the second mortgage. I forged your name on the notary documents. My buddy Mark is a notary. He stamped it for me. And the title loan for the VIG, he said, the weekly interest. And a quick cash loan. To try and win it back, he wailed. I just needed a streak. I just needed one good streak. I stood there, processing the magnitude of the disaster. He hadn't just drained my savings. He hadn't just lost $50,000 today. He had systematically stripped the equity out of my home, forged my name on legal documents involving the federal banking system, and entangled us with violent criminals. I was financially ruined. The door opened. 2 uniformed officers walked in. Who called about a forgery? One of them asked. I did, I said, pointing at the man on the floor. That's him. Take him away. Jason screamed as they handcuffed him. He begged. He pleaded. He promised he would change. He screamed that he loved me. I watched them drag him out of the casino office. I felt nothing. The love I had for him had evaporated the moment I saw him bet my mother-in-law's chemo money on Black 17. Mrs. Vance, Rossi said gently, we will hold the marker pending the police investigation. But the other loans, the liens on your house, those are valid until proven fraudulent. You have a big mess to clean up. I know, I said. Can I have a copy of that credit report? He printed it out for me. I walked out of the casino into the bright afternoon sun. It seemed wrong that the sun was shining. My life had just imploded. I was technically homeless, or about to be if the bank foreclosed. My husband was going to jail. My savings were gone. I sat in my car and looked at the credit report. The names of the lenders, the dates, and then I saw something. The second mortgage. The one Jason said his buddy Mark had notarized. I knew Mark. Mark was Jason's best friend from college. Mark was a real estate agent. Mark had been at our wedding. Mark had eaten my cooking. If Mark notarized a forged signature, he wasn't just a bad friend. He was a co-conspirator in mortgage fraud. And unlike Jason, Mark had a license to lose. Mark had assets. Mark had insurance. I started the car. Jason was going to jail. That was fine. But jail wouldn't get my money back. Jail wouldn't pay off the liens on my house. I needed to find the money. I wiped my eyes. I put the car in gear. Hey Siri, I said to my phone, directions to Mark Sullivan's real estate office. Jason thought he was the only one who could bluff. He was about to find out that his wife knew how to call a bluff. And I was holding a royal flush of evidence. I walked out of that house with $18,000, but I knew paying the debt wasn't enough. I had to catch the collectors. Sunny Meadows Retirement Community is the kind of place that smells like lavender and denial. The lawns are perfectly manicured, the fences are white, and the secrets are buried deep under the rose bushes. I parked my car in front of Unit 4B. My heart was racing, but my hands were steady on the wheel. I had a printout of the crypto transactions in my purse. I had the red paint on my living room walls burned into my memory. I didn't knock. I rang the doorbell long and hard. Linda answered. She was wearing a floral apron, looking exactly like the sweet, innocent grandmother she pretended to be on the phone. Her smile faltered when she saw my face. "Chloe," she asked, clutching a dish towel, "what are you doing here? I thought you were handling Jason." "I did handle him," I said, pushing past her into the living room. It was cozy. Doilies on the tables, pictures of Jason on the mantelpiece. He's in a cell. Now I'm here to handle you. "Me?" Linda closed the door, looking offended. "I told you, Chloe, I washed my hands of him years ago. It breaks my heart, but—" "Stop it," I said. "Just stop." Moin of the magis curvacnifers, moin of the matis, I'm quoting to so trama conceit in subarely indifiet ni elevator. I pulled the papers out of my purse and slammed them onto her coffee table right next to a bowl of butterscotch candies. "You said you cut him off," I said, my voice rising. "You said you haven't seen him. So explain to me why my husband, who stole $50,000 from me, transferred $20,000 into your PayPal account yesterday." Linda stared at the papers. The confused old lady mask slipped. Her eyes hardened. She didn't look frail anymore. She looked sharp, calculated. "He sent it for safekeeping," she said coldly. "Safekeeping." I laughed, a sound of pure disbelief. "He stole that money from my savings. He forged my signature. And you're hiding it for him?" "He told me you were going to leave him," Linda spat back. "He said you were controlling, that you watched his every move, that you wouldn't let him have access to his own money. He needed a nest egg, Chloe. A man needs to feel independent." "He's a gambling addict, Linda," I shouted. "He wasn't saving for independence. He was hiding assets. And you helped him. Do you know what that makes you? An accomplice to wire fraud and money laundering." "I am his mother," she screamed, her face turning red. "I protect my son. You wouldn't understand. You don't have children. You just have your career and your spreadsheets." "I have loan sharks threatening to burn down my house," I yelled back. "Do you understand that? Because of your son, there is a threat written in red spray paint on my wall right now. Those people want their money, Linda. And they don't care that Jason is in jail. They're coming for me." Linda hesitated. She looked at the papers, then at me. For a second, I saw fear. But then, the stubbornness returned. "That's not my problem," she said, crossing her arms. "That money is for Jason's bail, or for his lawyer. I promised him I wouldn't touch it." "He doesn't need bail." I stepped closer to her. "He needs to stay in jail where he's safe. I'm the one in danger. Now give me the money." Calling my upper spandex like aren't whoever works. So support times my 8 rodeo horso. "Linda," I said, pulling out my phone, "I am going to dial 911. I am going to tell them that I have tracked stolen funds to this address. The police are already building a case against Jason. Do you really want to spend your retirement in a federal prison for aiding and abetting?" I held her gaze. "They will seize your condo. They will freeze your pension. You will lose everything. Is protecting a thief worth that?" Linda's lip trembled. She looked at the phone in my hand. She looked at the photos of Jason on the wall, the smiling boy who grew up to be a monster. She slumped. The fight went out of her. "It's in the safe," she whispered. "In the bedroom." "Show me." I followed her into the bedroom. She opened a small fireproof safe in the closet. Inside, there were stacks of cash. "He had me withdraw it," she sniffled. "He said digital trails were dangerous. He wanted cash." I counted it, $18,000. It wasn't the full 20, but it was close enough. "Where is the rest?" I asked. I used a little," she admitted, looking away. "For the bingo hall, just a few hundred." "Of course. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree." I shoved the cash into my purse. "This doesn't fix it, Linda," I said, standing in her doorway. "But it buys me my life back." "Don't tell him," she begged, grabbing my arm as I turned to leave. "Please don't tell Jason I gave it to you. He'll hate me." I pulled my arm away. "He already hates you, Linda. He used your cancer as a cover story to rob his wife. He doesn't love anyone but the rush." I walked out of the condo. I sat in my car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking uncontrollably now. I had the money. I had $18,000 in cash in my bag, plus the money in my account. I could pay the loan sharks. But then I realized something. Paying them wasn't enough. If I paid the butcher or whoever these thugs were, They would know I was a source. They would know I could be squeezed. Jason was still in debt. They would come back next month, and the month after, I would be paying for Jason's mistakes for the rest of my life. I needed to end this, permanently. I looked at the cash. Then I looked at the red paint on the photo of my wall on my phone. HUS pained pays OR, wife pays. I wasn't gonna pay. I started the car. I wasn't driving home. I was driving to the one place Jason feared more than the loan sharks. I was driving to the police station, but not to turn in the money. I had a plan. A trap. If the loan sharks wanted a meeting, I would give them one. But I wasn't coming alone. I picked up my phone and dialed Detective Miller, the officer who had arrested Jason. "Detective," I said when he answered. "This is Chloe Vance. I found the money, and I have the loan sharks contacting me. I want to wear a wire." He screamed that I ruined him, but I looked him in the eye and told him I didn't ruin him. The parking lot of the abandoned drive-in theater on Route 9 was dark, quiet, and smelled of wet asphalt. It was the kind of place where bad things happened in movies. And tonight, I was the leading lady. I sat in my car, clutching the bag of cash Linda had given me. Under my jacket, taped to my chest, was a small wire recording device. In my ear, a tiny earpiece buzzed. "We have eyes on you, Chloe." Detective Miller's voice crackled. "Don't panic. Get him to admit to the threats. Get him to take the bag. Then get on the ground." "Merpile, I'm ready," I whispered. Headlights swept across the lot. A black SUV pulled up slowly. It parked facing me, blinding me with its high beams. A man got out. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a tracksuit and looked like he chewed rocks for breakfast. This was the collector for the quick cash loan. I stepped out of my car, holding the bag. My legs felt like jelly, but I forced myself to stand tall. I channeled every ounce of anger I had felt at the casino. The man walked up to me. He stopped 5 feet away. "You brought the VIG," he asked. His voice was gravel. "I brought the principal," I said, holding up the bag. 18,000. That covers the loan and the interest. We're done." "We're done when I say we're done," he sneered. "What about the trouble fee? Painting your house took time. You admit you did that?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "You admit you spray painted the threat on my wall?" "I admit I leave messages for people who don't pay," he laughed. "And if this bag is light, I'll leave a permanent message on your face. Hand it over." He reached for the bag. "Eat it," I said, tossing it to him. "And tell your boss Jason Vance is closed for business." He caught the bag. He unzipped it and checked the cash. "Looks good," he smirked. "Tell Jason he's a lucky boy. Most guys don't have a wife who cleans up their mess." "I'm not cleaning it up," I said, stepping back. "I'm flushing it." Suddenly, floodlights blinded us from all sides. Sirens wailed, shattering the silence. "Police! Drop the bag! Hands in the air!" SWAT team members swarmed from the shadows of the old projection booth. The man froze, looking around wildly. He reached for his waistband, but a red laser dot appeared on his chest. "Don't do it!" Miller screamed over the megaphone. The man dropped the bag. He dropped to his knees. I hit the ground, covering my head as officers rushed past me to cuff him. As they dragged him away, shouting Miranda rights, I lay on the cold pavement and let out a breath I had been holding for 48 hours.
It was over.
Woolpeats, 2 weeks later. The county jail visiting room is loud. It smells of industrial cleaner and hopelessness. I sat behind the thick glass partition, smoothing my skirt. Jason was brought in. He looked terrible. He had lost weight. He had a bruise on his cheek. He picked up the phone receiver, his hands shaking. "Chloe," he gasped, pressing his face against the glass. "Oh, God, thank you for coming. Did you pay them? Is the house safe? Can you bail me out now? I swear, once I'm out, I'll get a job. I'll make it right." I picked up my receiver. "The house is safe," I said. "The loan shark is in custody. He flipped on his boss to get a plea deal. They're all going away for racketeering." "That's amazing." Jason slumped with relief. "You're amazing, babe. You saved us. So when can I come home?" "The bail is set at 10 grand. Did you bring it?" I looked at him. Even now, in an orange jumpsuit, he was trying to hustle me. He thought I was his safety net. He thought I was the bank that never closed. "Bring bail, Jason," I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out a thick manila envelope. I slid it through the metal slot at the bottom of the window. "What is this?" he asked, opening it. He pulled out the papers. "Petition for dissolution of marriage. Divorce." He looked up, tears forming in his eyes. "Chloe, no. Please. Not now. I'm at rock bottom." "You dug the hole, Jason," I said. "I'm just taking away the ladder." "No." I shook my head. "You love the thrill. You love the risk. And I was just another chip you put on the table. You bet our house, our savings, and my safety." "I have nothing," he sobbed. "If you leave me, I have nothing." "You have your mom," I said. "Oh wait, I visited her. I took the cash you hid there. That's what the police used for evidence against the loan shark. She's currently facing charges for aiding and abetting. I don't think she'll be taking your calls." Jason stared at me. The realization hit him. I hadn't just left him. I had dismantled his entire safety network. "You ruined me," he whispered. "No, Jason." I stood up and hung the receiver back on the hook. "I audited you." I walked out of the visiting room. I heard him screaming my name, banging on the glass, but I didn't turn around. I walked out into the sunshine. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank. Mortgage paid in full. I had sold the house on Elm Street. Even with the liens paid off, the memories were too expensive to keep. I used the equity to pay off the remaining debts and put a down payment on a condo in the city. A small place, just for me. I got into my car. I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw a woman who was tired, yes, but she was debt-free. She was safe, and she was never, ever going to let someone gamble with her life again. I drove away from the jail, merging onto the highway.
On the radio, an ad for the Lucky Eagle Casino came on. "Come test your luck. The next big win could be yours."
I laughed. A free, genuine laugh. I switched the station. I had already won the only jackpot that mattered. I got my life back. If you enjoyed this story of justice, please hit that subscribe button. And tell me in the comments, what is the one deal breaker in a relationship that you will never forgive? I read every single one. Thanks for watching.